Well, good day to everybody. This is another episode of Web's Webinar Wednesday. It's the middle of the week again, and today it's all about the alignment between marketing and sales, a critical factor to be commercial successful. My name is Thijs van Rosmalen. I will be your host of today, and I will start this webinar with some practical stuff if this is your first episode of Web's Webinar Wednesday. We have a chat pane, so put it open, say hi, make sure it technically works, because that will be your holy grail for this webinar. If you have any question during the webinar, you can ask it there, and I have the possibility to interrupt our guest speaker of today and ask all your questions to make sure that we make this the most valuable hour of today. In your calendar booked, thank you for making the time. Thank you for joining. So let's make this a good interactive session. It is recorded, so that means you will get all the insights afterwards on a landing page with additional documents, etc. We get you all covered with that. So focus on the story, focus on your questions, and feel free to share anything. We scheduled a full hour for this great topic, and of course, I'm not alone in here. So I would like to introduce to you, I would say, the inbound sales professor. I already mentioned in our pre-discussion before this webinar that this is a pretty familiar setup on his side. If you follow him on LinkedIn, you will recognize the background of this great, informative HubSpot videos. And if you are certified in the HubSpot platform, you will recognize him as well, maybe from one of the great certifications the HubSpot Academy offers you. Welcome, Carl Jepson, to this webinar. Good morning to you, since it's 9 o'clock in the morning at your part of the world. Let's say, what is marketing and sales? What are you missing as an organization if they don't align well? What's the critical point here?
Yeah, well, I mean, perhaps the biggest thing is lost revenue, but also lost trust from your customers. If your marketing team is saying one thing and your sales team is saying another thing, your customers are just going to get frustrated and leave, and that is the worst possible thing to lose.
That's the worst possible thing. So it's all about figuring out that customer experience. We make sure that there's no friction in that process by building the bridge between marketing and sales. And I'm very curious about what you're going to tell us. So feel free. I will interrupt you if there is any great question, but feel free to start. We're buzzing.
Yeah, please do. Everyone, thanks so much for being here. And by all means, interrupt me if you have a question. I'm happy to take questions as they come. I do have a section at the end for questions, but you don't have to wait. I'd love for this to be as conversational as possible. Will my buttons work? There we go. I'm Kyle Jepson. I figure if you don't know what I look like yet, you will by the end of this. So I didn't bother putting a picture of myself here. This is my wife and kids. This is an old picture now. This is 2019. They're a bit bigger now. In fact, if I can do on purpose what I did accidentally before the webinar started, this is what we look like now. This is last Christmas. We took a picture here on our steps. So they're all a little bigger, but they smiled better in this picture. So I stick with this one. I'm the author of 6 HubSpot certifications. Also, a couple hundred LinkedIn videos at this point, HubSpot tips and tricks. Just a little bit of information about me here, but let's hop forward. Let's get into the heart of this. I want to talk about why sales and marketing alignment matters. I guess I gave you the one sentence version of that, but I've got some slides about it too. And then I want to get really tactical with you about how to align marketing and sales. A lot of what I'll share with you is just general best practices based on research I've done, talking with a lot of different companies that are very good at this. You don't need any particular system to work on it, but I will be sharing HubSpot insights for those of you who use HubSpot. Our platform is designed for cross-team collaboration and alignment. So I'm going to call out some of those features as we go. And then at the end, ask me anything. I'm calling it an ask me anything instead of question and answer session, because I really want you to think of me as I'm a guy here from HubSpot. I am access to you, to the company. So ask me anything. I may not know the answers. I certainly don't know everything, but I'm happy to connect you to the right person if I do not have the answers. So ask away, take advantage of my being here. And with that, why does alignment matter? So I want to start with this. This is a thing HubSpot's been talking about for a couple of years now. Most businesses think of themselves as a funnel, and this makes a lot of sense because so many of the charts we make in our business performance are funnel shaped, right? You have a lot of people and then less people each step of a conversion path. But thinking of your business in this sort of linear one direction way is problematic in the modern world. It doesn't work for a variety of reasons. And I've put together some slides with a bunch of stick figures here. I had maybe a little too much fun with this. But one thing you have to realize is the bottom of your funnel can feed the top of your funnel. As people go through your funnel, if they come down, if they have fun, if they have a good experience with your company, if they love you, they will shout your praises to all their friends who will then come do business with you. And you don't have to work very hard to get these people to buy from you. Your customers are advocating on your behalf. Happy customers become an extension of your sales and marketing team and makes growth easier for you. On the other hand, if it's a bad experience working with your company, if it is disconnected, if it is unpleasant, people will tell their friends about that too. And instead of advocating for you, they will stop people from coming and doing business with you so that your marketing and sales teams will have to work harder to grow. And we call this phenomenon the flywheel because you need to attract new people to you. You need to engage with them to understand their needs. And then you need to provide a delightful experience for them. And if you really do that well, then they will attract people to your company for you on your behalf. And your growth will accelerate with each cycle of this process. But if you are not delighting them, if you are misrepresenting what you can do for them, if you are not meeting their needs well, then they will add a lot of friction to this cycle and slow it down, and growth will become more and more difficult for you over time. And this phenomenon we expect only to become more and more powerful as the world gets more connected and social media and the metaverse and all these things play a bigger role in the way people make decisions. You have to provide a really seamless, great experience to your customers if you want to continue to grow and do business. And cross-team collaboration is a key part of that. So often what we see is the marketing team will attract people with content and explain your products in a particular way. And then when the prospective customer gets on the phone with your sales team is suddenly telling a different story or doesn't know who the person is and has to start the conversation over from scratch. And then again, after they buy, your service delivery team starts the conversation all over again and is now explaining, well, the sales team, yes, promised that the product could do that, but actually it doesn't do that. They were just saying that to make a sale. That is not going to work the longer we are in the 21st century. And so you really need this cross-team collaboration and alignment. And particularly with marketing and sales, which is what we're talking about today, these are some of the first impressions and interactions people will have with your company. And it is so crucial that you start that relationship in a good way so that it can lead to this growth and this advocacy that I've talked about. So let's talk about what this looks like. How can you align marketing and sales? There are three main things I really want to talk about today. Marketing and sales need to have shared definitions, transparent accountability to each other, and they need to be sales focused in their content. And I'll explain each of these in depth. Let's start with shared definitions. Marketing and sales need a shared understanding of what a qualified lead is. And that doesn't sound remarkable, but it is so hard to get right. So often what I see is a marketing team will have their idea of what sort of person buys from their company, and they're going out and attracting these people, and then they hand all these leads off to sales, and sales looks at them and says, these aren't the leads we're looking for. What is this? And they don't even contact them. And that is a bunch of wasted time and resources on the marketing side. And it just builds this anger and animosity between the two teams that is very detrimental. So at the most basic level, you need a list of traits that makes a good lead. And often this intelligence just exists in the sales organization, but is not communicated very well to the marketing organization. Sales teams have talked to a lot of different people. Some are very good fits for your product. Some are very not good fits for your product. And they sort of know, they may not have it documented, but they have a good sense of who it is that is likely to buy and go on to be a happy, successful customer. And sales needs to share that information with marketing. And if you can turn it into a list of traits that you can very simply check the box next to these traits, and if a person has 4 out of 5, they're a great fit, and if they have 2 out of 5, they're a poor fit, that is such a powerful thing. And if you start building that into your CRM system, whether it's HubSpot or anything else, then you can start segmenting your leads based on these traits and you can get really organized and you can automate a lot of useful stuff. And ultimately what you come up with is something like this. You have leads, and they're either a good fit or they're a poor fit. And if they're a good fit, great, that's a qualified lead. And if they're a poor fit, fine, we're probably not going to pursue that lead. And if you get even to this point, you are well ahead of a lot of companies. Just to have this conversation between marketing and sales and come to an agreement about what is good and what is poor, huge. That is an enormous step forward that is only going to be beneficial for you. But there's no reason you have to stop there, because it turns out not all qualified leads are ready to talk to sales. And this has to do with a thing we call the buyer's journey, which is not something HubSpot invented. This is pretty common across a lot of different, I like to think I'm the first person to represent it with emojis though. There are these 3 stages of awareness, consideration, and decision. And in the awareness stage, a person is just becoming aware of the fact they have a problem. They don't even know they need to buy a product yet. They don't even know what product they would buy. They just have, my back hurts, right? Or my joints are achy, or there is something wrong with my life and I need to fix it, right? And the awareness stage continues until they are ready to, they realize I need to take some sort of action. So in the consideration stage, they start trying to diagnose the problem and figure out what categories of solutions exist, right? If it is achy back, achy joints, maybe I need a new mattress. Maybe I need different shoes. Maybe I'm sick and I need to see a doctor. Maybe there's something else going on with my nutrition, or there are so many different things that a problem can be a symptom of. And in the consideration stage, the person is sorting through all that and trying to figure out which of these categories they want to pursue. And then maybe they decide it is shoes. I need shoes with better support, or I need a better mattress, or I need to change my diet, whatever it is. Once they've decided on that category, now they're in the decision stage where they're willing to make a purchase, right? I've decided I need better shoes. I'm going to go buy some shoes. I need to decide which shoes to buy. But until they get to that point, they aren't really ready to buy. And the thing that is really kind of, there's a lot of nuance here, is if your sales team waits until people are in the decision stage to talk to them, they're probably too late. But if they show up in the awareness stage and start trying to sell shoes to a person that doesn't even know they need to buy shoes, that's not going to go well either. And what you need to do is support people across this journey, right? Have educational content so that when someone Googles, why does my back hurt? They find information from your company, and you lay out all these things. Maybe you don't need to buy our shoes. It could be a mattress thing. It could be a nutrition thing. It could be you're getting old. It could be so many different things. But if you can educate them, you start building this relationship of trust where they realize, wow, this company is helping me solve my problems. And if it turns out they're in their consideration stage, they decide they do need to buy the sort of product that you sell, now you've already started that conversation with them, and you have some trust built, and that's only going to be beneficial. But what this means for your lead qualification matrix is now you have 2 dimensions, right? You have people who are a good fit, you have people who are a poor fit, but you can also start to think about people who are ready to talk to sales and people who are not ready to talk to sales. And this is kind of the distinction between sales and marketing. Those sales ready, good fit leads, your sales team should be starting that sales conversation with. But those good fit leads that aren't quite ready yet, your marketing team should be working to educate and prepare, nurture them so that they can talk to the sales team. I would say if you can make a lead qualification like matrix like this, that is really, you're clearly defining how you know if someone is sales ready or not. You're clearly defining what makes someone a good fit or a poor fit. You are world class at lead qualification. Very few companies are doing this well and doing it consistently, maintaining those definitions and updating them over time. But what we found at HubSpot is you can actually take this a step further. We have found that not all sales ready, good fit leads are created the same. You know, there may be people coming to our website and looking at our pricing page, which implies they are in some sense ready to make a purchase. But then there are also people who click the button that says talk to sales. And those people want to buy right now, right? And so we call those hand raisers. Just internally at HubSpot, we've decided to treat these people as their own category of leads. If someone raises their hand and says, I want to talk to a salesperson, have your sales team drop everything and talk to that person, because they are in a moment where their sales intent can't get any higher. They are telling you, they are making the effort to let you know, I would like to do business with you. And if you hesitate, you're going to lose them, right? Because maybe they are saying the same thing to your competitors. And if you can be the first person to show up and respond and say, hey, you wanted to talk to us? Here we are. How can we help? then you win. If you're waiting a couple days, you may lose the opportunity. And so this is what our lead qualification matrix internally at HubSpot looks like. I would encourage you to think of this the same way. And it could be realistically, you may not get very many hand raisers, right? This might be a 1 or 2 times a month thing, but those people who do raise their hands are going to be your most valuable leads because they're starting the sales conversation with you and you can just show up and help them through it. So this is, I would say, the best possible ideal lead qualification matrix. If you can set the definitions, and if marketing and sales can agree on what these definitions are, and if you can categorize your leads into these boxes, you are going to accomplish great things. And then the division of labor between teams becomes pretty clear, right? Sales is going to have the hand raisers and the sales ready people. Marketing is going to talk to the good fit people who aren't ready yet, and they're going to nurture them and bring them over to the sales ready side. But the bottom of the matrix, it gets a little complicated. What happens if someone raises their hand and says, I want to talk to sales, and you know they're not a good fit for your product? Well, this may never happen to you, but it could, right? Especially as your lead volume gets bigger, as your website gets more traffic, this will occasionally happen. And the rule of thumb I would give you is the more leads you have, the higher your lead qualification standards can be. If you really are just getting a couple of hand raisers a month, don't be picky, just call every single one of them. It could be that in talking to some that you think are poor fits, you will learn that your definition of good fit needs to be reworked a little. And there are some people that don't meet the qualifications you set who are actually still good customers. Or it could be, you'll find out they really are poor fits and you should not do business with them, but there was something on your website that misled them and made them think you could solve their problem when you couldn't really. And now you need to update that messaging. On the other hand, if you're getting hundreds of these, HubSpot's websites get a lot of traffic. And so we segment these out. If someone raises their hand and they're a good fit, they get to talk to sales immediately. If they raise their hand and we're pretty sure they're not a good fit, we send them an email from the sales rep saying, hey, we saw you requested some information. Here's a couple things to think about. If you're still interested in talking to me, just reply to this email. So it's not quite as urgent as we're going to pick up the phone and call you right now, but it's still, we're responding, and being responsive is a great thing to do. And then the bottom part of this matrix, hopefully, as you get really good at your messaging and your positioning and your website design and your social media messaging and all those things, hopefully you don't see very many poor fit leads coming through. You should be really clear about who you can help and who you can't help, who you should be doing business with and who you shouldn't be doing business with. So if you're getting a lot of poor fit leads, here are some things to think about. First of all, where are they coming from? Are there particular sources that are sending you bad leads? Maybe you should check how that campaign is running and what is it about the messaging you've got there that is attracting people it shouldn't be, and how can you improve that? Why are they coming to you? Why do they think you can help? Again, this is a messaging question. Who should they be buying from? If you can tell people like, hey, thanks for coming. This is a common misconception. Lots of people think we help with this, but actually we've partnered with this other organization. And if you go tell them we sent you, like, they'll give you a discount or whatever. You can still find a way to make this positive, right? Instead of just telling people like, go away, we don't have time to work with you, or just ignoring them altogether. If you can help them on their path to the place they're going, that is building more goodwill, right? And maybe they'll hop on Twitter or LinkedIn and say, you know, I reached out to this company thinking they did this thing, and they actually don't do that thing, but they told me what company did. And if I ever need this other thing, I think I would go with them because they were just so eager to help. And then how do they feel about your company? Some people might just love what you do, right? Some people, at HubSpot, we've tried to build a very fun human brand. I think there are people who like what our company is doing, even if they have no need for our software. Don't discourage them, right? Let them be a fan, and maybe have some sort of like, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't talk to our sales team. You don't need to buy from us, but like, go watch these fun videos or something, just to keep. Again, you don't want anyone to feel like they got in trouble for contacting you, because that is just going to hurt your reputation in other ways. So,
couple questions here, Carl, if that's okay for you, about the metrics. What would be characteristics to determine the lead between marketing and sales? Like, would it be average turnover size? What kind of characteristics would you come up with to identify a lead?
Yeah. So if we're talking about here, how we decide, yeah. So the distinction between sales ready and unready is it's gonna be a little different for every company. If you have a lot of online content and you have it kind of segmented by the different stages of the buyer's journey, you're going to know that people who are downloading your awareness stage content are not ready to talk to sales, right? They don't even know that your product is something they might need. But as they start being interested in the content that's more in the consideration or especially the decision stages, now you should alert your sales team, hey, this person is interacting with that part of it. It could be also that you'll have different sorts of offerings. I think a lot of unready leads are going to be doing things like reading blog posts, downloading ebooks, maybe like attending a webinar. Whereas as they get closer, they might interact more with free consultations or other kind of more one-on-one sorts of things. Or, you know, if you are running a webinar like this and someone is showing up and asking the sorts of questions that your sales team would expect to answer on a call, you can use that moment to say, hey, it looks like you've got a lot of really great questions. We're not going to be able to answer them all here. Can we set up some time and we'll talk one-on-one to work through those? Now that person should absolutely be in contact with your sales team. So this is, I mean, you're gonna, some of it will be a little bit of trial and error. HubSpot has these really cool attribution reports for marketing where you can see how much revenue different channels and different pieces of content are driving. If you can dig into the data that way and start noticing patterns of like, oh, people who consume this content or take this action are much more likely to close, you might start pushing them into that sales ready content. But I think at the heart of this, there's going to be a conversation between marketing and sales. And sales will be able to tell you very realistically, like, hey, you keep sending me these people who downloaded that ebook and they don't even know what product we sell. Like they should not be talking to sales.
So your ideal customer profile could be a good outcome for this, to understand, okay, this type of company has to be in that part of their journey in order to become a sales ready lead, for example.
Yeah, for sure.
Another question here is, how could you map this matrix into the system of HubSpot? So if you are using the platform already, would it be via lead scoring, for example?
Yeah, no, so you're one slide ahead of me here. Let's
continue then. Let's continue.
So here we are with our lead matrix here. Those bottom two, you're going to have to investigate what's going on there. But for these unready leads, marketing is going to be doing a lot of like ads, emails, social blogs. You should absolutely, your ideal customer profile, if you can have that set up as properties inside HubSpot, then as you collect information about people, you can automatically start targeting ads at them or sending them relevant emails and making that really clear to them on the, whoops, sorry, wrong button. And same thing in this, if you're getting these poor fit hand raisers and you're deciding to send them to marketing because there's a high volume, you're going to do these same sorts of things. You're going to treat them in that same way. On the sales side, when someone is sales ready, or if they're a poor fit hand raiser and sales is reaching out, you're going to want to use a lot of sequences and meetings. And again, these things can be automated in HubSpot. If you're collecting information about people, the activities they take on your website, the buttons they push can trigger these workflows that enroll them in a sequence. And a sequence is just a series of emails from a sales rep, and they include a meeting link, which goes to the sales rep's calendar and says, hey, book time with me. They can include documents, which are these tracked, like PDFs and things. Or you can send one-to-one videos, which is a really powerful way to kind of move somebody from that not quite ready to ready, right? If as a salesperson, you send a personalized video to someone and say, hey, my name's Kyle. I saw you download whatever information. I'd love to answer any questions you have about it. Here are a few quick tips or whatever it is you say in your video. Now you are a human being. Now you are shifting your relationship of the person from having a relationship with your company as this sort of faceless entity to having a relationship with a single salesperson, which can really help them move along in that buyer's journey. And then on the hand raiser side, those good fit hand raisers, skip the emails and the videos, go straight to calling, have a playbook ready that walks you through how to do that qualification call. And if you're not able to get through, then use tasks and sequences to remind you to follow up. But just picking up the phone and calling someone who raises their hand can be a very powerful thing to do. Did that help? Did that answer the question that was asked?
Yeah. Partly, it's. I understand these tools for the different stages, but I also think once it needs to go through the buyer journey, something of the functionality like lead scoring could be very
Yes, for
beneficial.
sure.
Like it's this part of the DMU, and that score from the ICP, and this on their
Yes,
interaction that equals 70 points, for example, and that
right.
means go after
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. I think that's very smart. And I think lead scoring, I think you can take this, these, I guess it's not a quadrant since there's more than 4, but these boxes and turn them into a sort of lead scoring system. The good fit versus poor fit are generally going to be properties. If you're in a B2B space, it's going to be things like company size and industry and maybe, a few things, annual revenue or whatever, however you measure that. Location can be very important. For the unready versus sales ready, that's going to be more like activities and behavioral events on your website. They clicked this button, they downloaded this thing, they attended this event. That's like as you see those interactions between a person and your company, your brand, that's what's going to tell you, yeah, this person is hanging out with us a lot. This person is coming and consuming a lot of our content. We should talk to them and see if they're finding what they're looking for. So that's and all of that is in HubSpot. So again, like good fit, poor fit, these are going to be just general properties about the person or the company. And then sales ready versus unready, these are going to be more like activities and behavioral events and things. And both of those can be included in your lead scoring model inside HubSpot. You can assign different points for different things, add and subtract, and fine tune it so you can start triggering automation based off of it as well.
And would that be different for leads in your existing client base? So more cross and upsell kind of leads?
I think it can be both. When I created this, I am thinking mostly of new business. For cross-sell and upsell, it's no longer just a conversation between marketing and sales, but you really need your customer service success team involved in that as well. Because maybe, someone is, if they have purchased from you before, certainly they're a good fit, right? Hopefully. And they may be doing activities on your website that indicate they are sales ready. But if currently they have a support ticket open with your team that's been open for a long time and is causing them a lot of frustration, now is probably not a good time to show up and say, hey, do you want to pay us some more money? Because they aren't in a good place with you. And so I think for cross-sell and upsell, there are additional factors you need to consider.
Cool. All right. One more final question for this part. Leonie is asking a bit more explanation on the low volume and high volume. You mentioned that before, but
yeah. So when hand raisers, lots of companies, I feel like most companies don't have a spot on their website for people to raise their hand. Some sort of like contact sales or schedule an appointment or I want to do business with you sort of button. And so if you don't have that, your hand raisers column is going to be empty. And the first time you add that to your website, it doesn't seem likely that same day you're going to get 100 people raising their hands, right? It's going to take you time to figure out the right language and the right place and the right information to ask for in that context. And so as you do that, you'll start getting a hand raiser here and a hand raiser there. And if you're just getting 1 or 2 or 10 a month, there is no reason to segment them very carefully and say, should this go to sales or should it go to marketing? If the volume of hand raisers you're getting is low enough that your sales team can contact all of them within a reasonable amount of time, just have your sales team contact every single one of them.
Go for it.
And because if someone is saying they want to do business with you, let them try to do business with you. And your sales team might have to, in the course of a qualification conversation, say, look, honestly, I don't think we can help you with that problem you have. That's not really what we do. And now you can change the conversation to, I'm curious, why did we mislead you somehow? Is there something we said that made you think we could help with this? Because that was not our intent. And I really, I'd like to correct that problem. Whereas once you get the mechanics of your website right, and if you're investing in SEO and stuff, so you're getting a lot of traffic, eventually, hopefully you'll get to the point where so many people are raising your hands that your sales team can't just drop everything and call them right away because there's too many of them. And now you're in a position to start really taking a look at the people who are coming through this. Are they good fits? Are they poor fits? Do we need to segment them out a little bit? So that's why I put this low volume, high volume thing in there. In general, if you're just getting started with this sort of lead qualification matrix, I would say if someone raises their hand, call them. just do it and see what happens. And the feedback you get from that will help you refine how it is you let people raise their hands and how you ask them to do so.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's oh yeah, one last thing. So kind of my favorite thing about HubSpot is that we have marketing tools, yes, and we have sales tools, yes, but we are a single platform combined together. And our whole idea is that as people interact with your sales and services and marketing teams, they shouldn't feel like separate departments. It should feel like one unified team. And so I feel like personally, the most valuable and exciting thing about HubSpot isn't the tools inside Marketing Hub or the tools inside Sales Hub, but what happens when you combine them together. So for example, meeting links are this way for people to schedule time on your calendar, right? Your sales rep can send it an email, someone clicks on it, they see the sales rep's calendar, they select the time, they put in their email address so they can get an invite, and the meeting is booked. But that in the background is just a HubSpot form. And HubSpot forms we use to populate properties and trigger automation. And so anytime someone submits a meeting link on your website, if you have Marketing Hub, you can pull that information in to start dynamically personalizing your website. This is now a person who booked a meeting with your sales team. Maybe they should see slightly different information. Maybe it should be worded slightly differently. You can start A/B testing marketing emails, right? So like instead of just sending a standard confirmation email, you can start playing around with what that email looks like, what it contains, and start seeing if you can drive a better show rate, right? What percentage of the people using this meeting link to schedule a meeting actually show up for that meeting? Can we improve that by A/B testing the email confirmation and reminder emails? That's a really powerful conversation combination between the two hubs. Similarly, meeting links and sequences is one of the most powerful combinations in Sales Hub. You can send these out, your sales reps can send these automated emails, and each one can have a meeting link, book time on my calendar. And if you're sending it to the right people and the language is appropriate, then you're going to start seeing your sales reps' calendars just filling up. But again, because that's the meeting links are forms, and because they're connected to other things, CTAs. Sorry, let me start that over. Because the CTAs are also in the same, so these calls to actions, they're the buttons inside Marketing Hub. You can use them to trigger automation, and Workflows, our automation tool, can now enroll people into sequences. So maybe someone clicks a button on your website, and they get enrolled into a sequence from your sales rep, without them having to take the full effort. Playbooks in the enterprise form, we just moved Playbooks down to professional, which I think is very exciting, and you should all investigate that. But if you have the enterprise version of Playbooks, so Playbooks are basically these call scripts you can create for your reps, and they have the questions you want your sales rep asking when they're on the call. And instead of your reps having to type the notes, they can just push buttons, right? This is how the person answered. In the enterprise version, that information can be routed into properties. And then as soon as they're in those properties, you can use this in ad targeting and other personalization, so that as your reps are having conversations and collecting information, all the touch points that customer interacts with on your website and elsewhere can be updated based on that conversation they had. And even more powerful is in conversation intelligence. So our call analysis tool, which transcribes your calls and listens for specific terms. If people are saying specific words or talking about specific topics on your calls without your sales rep taking any action at all, that can trigger automation that starts updating the dynamic personalization and the ads targeting that you have out in the world. And so these conversations your sales teams are having, which normally are completely invisible to a marketing team, can start informing the marketing content you're creating and giving a really personalized experience across your content to the people who are in the midst of a conversation with your sales team. So that was just a few ideas of how you can start bringing these two together inside the platform. That's the end of the shared definitions bit. And now let's talk about transparent accountability. So one thing that is really difficult with sales and marketing teams is they usually don't have any accountability to each other. The marketing team reports to, the CMO, the sales team reports to the VP of sales, and they all have their own goals and they all have their own metrics, and they are working completely independently. So HubSpot has pioneered this idea of a service level agreement. We didn't invent the term service level agreement. This has been an idea between a service provider and a customer for a long time. We are going to deliver a certain amount of service in a certain amount of time. But what we've done is we've taken this and applied it to sales and marketing, where we have made them basically service providers to each other. Marketing promises to deliver a certain number of qualified leads to sales each month or quarter, whatever sort of period you use. And sales promises to contact every single one of those leads within a certain amount of time. And so to build this, the idea here is to align them around your company's revenue goal. This year, your company hopes to make some amount of money. This quarter, they hope to, or this month, however you break it down. So if that's the goal, if you want to make that amount of money, how many sales do you need to close in order to achieve that goal? To figure that out, you're going to look at the average size of a sale when it closes. How many of those sales would you need to hit that company goal? And then you can break it down even further. Once you've gotten that lead qualification matrix I talked about and the lead scoring all figured out, and you start to have a sense of how many good qualified leads marketing has to send to sales in order for sales to get one closed deal, well, now you can start to create something that looks like this. These numbers are made up. Your numbers will be different. But for example, every month, marketing will deliver 1,000 qualified leads to sales, and sales will contact each of those leads within 24 hours of receiving it. So there are a few important things here that will be slightly different if you do this. First, every month. Maybe you don't work on a monthly cadence. Maybe you work on a quarterly cadence or whatever sort of cadence you work on. Just whatever that period is, that will be the beginning. Marketing will deliver 1,000 qualified leads to sales. The number will almost certainly not be 1,000. It will be however many leads they need to give to sales for sales to be able to close the number of deals or opportunities required to hit that revenue goal. And then so that's marketing's agreement. We are promising sales the appropriate number of leads. On the other hand, sales is promising they will contact 100% of those leads. That part should not vary. If you've done the work to define leads properly, every marketing lead should be worth contacting. And sales should promise to contact not just 100% of them, but 100% of them within a particular frame of time. I think 24 hours generally is pretty reasonable, depending on the volume and the size of your sales team. If your sales team is just 1 or 2 people or 5 people, and your marketing team is really sending 1,000 qualified leads, it might take a couple days, and you've got to be realistic about this. But in general, faster is always better. The sooner your sales team can get in contact with someone, the less likely they are to buy from someone else in the meantime or move on to some other priority. So this is the most basic form of a sales and marketing SLA, and that's really powerful. And inside HubSpot or whatever system you're using, you will need to have reports to track this, right? So you'll have a report like this that shows that gray line at the top is the goal, right? So this month marketing needs to produce, I think for this chart, it's actually 10,000 leads, which is a wildly big number. And then this is showing how many leads from across all our channels have we actually produced and sent off to sales. And you can watch this and see how they do. And it's important as you do this for a few cycles, you'll start to realize that marketing not only needs to provide the right number of leads, but they need to provide them at the right cadence, right? If the number really is 1,000 leads and marketing delivers all 1,000 leads on the first day of the month and then disappears, the sales team is never going to be able to contact all of those within a reasonable amount of time. Or if marketing waits until the last day of the month to deliver 1,000 leads, then the sales team is going to spend the whole month sitting around wondering what to do and then be overwhelmed at the end. It needs to be the way this gray line is showing it, just a very smooth and steady. We are going to give these at a reasonable cadence throughout the month or quarter so that the sales team can contact them. On the other side, now this is the tasks pane inside of HubSpot. If these marketing leads come through and there's automatically a task assigned to the sales rep to, in this case, call them, these are call tasks here, then the sales rep can just come in here on a daily basis and click start queue and call all these people, or email them if that's the way you're reaching out, and work through them to make sure they're all being contacted. And then in our sales analytics tool, we have this report that shows average lead response time for each of your sales reps. And hopefully their numbers will be better than these numbers. This is from my own personal portal I use for demo purposes. Apparently, Andre Dominguez takes 1,500 days to contact his leads. You should not have sales reps taking that long. I take more than a year, so don't hire me either. But you can look at this report and start to hold people accountable and see like, oh, this rep is not contacting their leads within a reasonable amount of time. Maybe there's a coaching issue here. Maybe they have too many leads, right? Maybe we need to hire another person. You can start to identify where the problems are and fix them. So that's kind of the first version of an SLA, but you can actually take it a step further. Going back to this lead qualification matrix, you will find that the close rate for these different boxes will be different. So maybe, you know, a sales ready, good fit lead and a hand raiser, like they both close and they both buy, you know, roughly the same amount. They provide you the same amount of revenue, but I bet those hand raisers are going to close at a much higher rate, right? Sales ready people, they've attended some of your events, they've downloaded some content, your sales team reaches out, starts the conversation, they decide, you know what, we love what you do, but this isn't a priority for us right now. Maybe let's try again next year. Whereas with hand raisers, they've already said they're interested. So they're going to close at a much higher rate. So what that means, what that turns out to be is if your marketing team is giving you 1,000 sales ready leads and no hand raisers, or a 500 of each, that's going to turn into a very different amount of revenue in the end, right? Because that close rate is going to make such a difference. So if you get to the point that you have enough data that you can start to tease this out, you can know the close rate of your hand raisers versus the close rate of your sales ready leads, then you can start to have an SLA that looks something like this. Instead of asking for a particular number of leads, qualified leads, you can ask for a particular amount of revenue to be provided by marketing. And now this is really powerful because sales is always held to some sort of quota. We're going to provide this much revenue. That marketing very rarely is. But if you can make marketing and sales held both to a revenue number, now they really feel like peers and they really feel like they're working on the same problems and have the same goals. And this isn't purely academic. I mentioned this report earlier inside HubSpot because, again, Marketing Hub and Sales Hub are connected. We can give you data on which of your channels or which of your pieces of content or which of your marketing collateral in general is providing the most revenue. And your marketing team can start to invest in those things. Wow. I mean, according to this chart, paid social is not providing nearly as much as email marketing. I don't know that would really be the case for you. Again, this is not real data, but you can start to prioritize that way. Your marketing team can say, look, we want to drive revenue for the company. We get way more mileage out of email marketing and organic search than we do for social media and referrals. This is not real, but you can see how if you had that data, you can make different decisions and start prioritizing different things in your marketing strategy. So that was that section. Did any questions come in? One just came in. Is this based on last click attribution? Exactly. So I'm so glad you asked that. You can decide. So this is a revenue attribution report inside of HubSpot, and you can choose different revenue attribution models. And there are several of them. So there are a lot now. And you can, if you want to do last click, you can do last click. If you want to do first, you can do first. We have like J-shaped and I forget all the different shapes. But you can weight everything equally or emphasize the things near the end or near the beginning, whatever model you think best represents the actual behavior of your customers. And you can create all the different reports and compare them and look for which thing wins across the board if there is a clear winner. But the answer is it can be last click if you like last click, or if you don't like last click, there are other options too. Did any others come in that I?
No, it's answered already. There's was one small question of the average lead response time is a standard report in the library, right?
Yeah, so it's actually there's a thing called the sales analytics tool, and I'm not entirely clear on why it's separate from the reporting library, but it's just specific reports about sales, and you can go in there and see it, and then you can add it to your dashboards just like a normal report from the reporting library. So it is a standard report, yes, but if you go to the report library and just search for it, I don't think it'll come up. I think you need to go to the sales analytics tool.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. So my final point here is sales focused content. And this is, I mean, so often marketing teams, I sit on HubSpot's marketing team, and we try not to do this, but we fall into this trap ourselves where we will often think, you know what would be fun, or you know what would be cool, or you know what would catch a lot of people's attention if we did this, you know? Meanwhile, on the sales team, they are answering the same questions every single day on every single call. They're sending that email 1,000 times to explain the same sorts of things. And that is representative of the real questions your leads and customers have today. And if marketing teams, instead of being imaginative and creative and doing things they think will be fun and interesting, went and talked to the sales team and just said, what questions are you answering every day? And built content around that, that would provide much more value to the sales team. I'm not saying there's no room for creativity in marketing. I mean, I don't know that like the videos I post to LinkedIn do any good to our sales team, but I think they are building good things for our brand and our user base. So there's a balance here, certainly, but it is important for marketing teams to be tied to the topics that sales teams care about. So again, your sales team talks to prospects and customers all day, every day. They know the most common questions, the biggest concerns, which competitors you win and lose against. You need to turn that knowledge into content and share it with your prospects. A marketing team has an advantage over the sales team in the number of people they can reach. But the sales team has an advantage over the marketing team in the real world knowledge of questions and concerns that they encounter on a daily basis. And when you bring those two things together, it's a perfect match and will be great for your prospects and customers. So hat tip to Marcus Sheridan here. He wrote a great book called They Ask You Answer. Here are the sorts of questions he says your content should answer. What is your product? On a very basic level, your website should make it clear what it is you sell. How much does your product cost? This is a scary one for a lot of companies, and especially if you're doing some sort of custom solution or a service-based solution, the price can vary, but you can still provide information on your website that will help people understand at least the range of prices they might be dealing with if they work with you. What order of magnitude, right? Like how much budget should they expect this to take up? Anything you can do to reduce uncertainty around cost on your website is going to be helpful. What are the common problems with your product? Your product has problems and you need to be very clear about what those things are, what the limitations are, because if you convince people that your product has no problems and then they buy from you and they find out it has problems, they will cause problems for you. They will complain and they will cost you money and cost you customers. You need to be upfront about what your product can and cannot do. How does your product compare to competitors? This is another place. I mean, certainly people are going to be looking at third-party review sites, but if you can provide information about here's what we provide and what our competitors provide and how we're different and where we win and where we lose, then when people are looking for comparison of, you know, if you sell, I don't know what you sell, if you sell shoes, I'll stick with that product. How are different shoe brands different? If they land on your website, now they're on your website, right? So you're already ahead of the competition here. And what's required to be successful with your product? Are there things that they need to have or do in order to succeed? You should be clear about that also. Then from a book called The Sales Enablement Playbook, you should come up with a content matrix. This is just one example of kind of vaguely what HubSpot might do if we were selling to people. We like selling to VPs of marketing, right? Because we have some marketing tools. And so you have this first column for persona. There's only one persona here, but if you have multiple personas you serve, you would have multiple personas. Then the next line over is, or column over, is the pain that person has. So, right, a VP of marketing who is pained by the amount of administrative work they have to do is going to have different needs than the VP of marketing who is just falling behind on content creation. And so those are very different conversations you might have. And then a subset of pain is the features you provide, or in this case, HubSpot provides, that helps with that pain. And then you have content to explain that. So this is kind of the 4 steps. And to tie this to HubSpot tools, what I would say is you need to have playbooks for your sales team based on persona that talks through each pain point, right? So for a VP of marketing, I'm having a conversation with VP of marketing. I'm going to pull up my VP of marketing playbook, and I'm going to ask questions that will uncover what their pain is. Is it admin work? Is it content creation? Is it another thing? Is it a combination? Once I know that, Then in the features section, I can have sequences that helps with this, right? And these sequences are going to be made up of individual templates that share these pieces of content. So if, I learned they have a lot of admin work and I think our automation will help with that, I have one email template that sends our intro to workflows blog post. I have another one that sends our marketing automation 101 ebook. I'm going to create a sequence that sends this information to them to help. One thing so I made these slides last week. Yesterday I was doing an event and I was talking to a person who was talking about how we're in an interesting stage of the world right now, especially in the past couple of years, where there is just so much content out there that a lot of buyers are drowning in content. Giving them more content is not always helpful because they've already read everything on your website and on your competitor's website and on the third-party review sites, and they've watched some YouTube videos and they've talked to their friends and they're just overwhelmed. They don't know how to make sense of it. And so I do encourage you to do this. You absolutely should have sales-based content, and your sales team should absolutely be sharing that, and your marketing team should absolutely be putting that on your website and on your social. Like that is just the basic thing you need to do. But then as you move forward and have these conversations, your salespeople need to recognize that sending one more blog post might not be the most helpful thing, right? If your salesperson can sit down and consult with a person and say, where are you at? Like it might turn out the customer says, I know a lot of stuff, but I don't even know what questions to ask. And the salesperson can then say, look, I've had this conversation with hundreds of people. Here are the sorts of things they're thinking about. Does this resonate with you? And you can start becoming a guide to them to sort through all the content they've already digested. So I definitely recommend doing this, but I also recommend thinking about how you will help people digest this content, because if you just send it to them, that's no guarantee that they'll read it or understand it. And that is my 3 areas of alignment. So you need shared definitions around leads. What is a good fit? What is your ideal customer profile? What makes someone sales ready? What activities and events and things are they doing that indicate that? Is there the ability for people to raise their hand to request to talk to sales? If not, you should absolutely try to make that happen. Then you need transparent accountability. Marketing and sales, it's okay if they report to different parts of your organization. That's just the reality of a lot of organizations. But they need to have shared goals and metrics so they can be reliant on each other to help build your business. And then your content should be sales focused. It's fine if marketing wants to do fun, engaging, just brand stuff. But if it's not answering the serious questions and concerns that your sales team are uncovering, then it's a real missed opportunity. So we're doing okay. We have like 8 minutes here. So ask away if there are any questions you haven't asked yet.
Yeah, we are waiting for maybe give everybody the moment to ask some questions in the meantime.
Fine. I could use a drink of water, so we'll just
of course, take that moment. I was wondering, there might be some marketers or marketing managers in the room experience that their sales colleagues don't see the urgence for the alignment. What ammunition would you give them to get sales at the table to talk about mutual definitions?
Yeah, that is the question. And actually, I'll just let's see. I think somewhere I would definitely recommend, if you haven't already, checking out my sales enablement certification. The reason I advocated for HubSpot to create that certification is because of this problem. When I first joined HubSpot Academy, I created the inbound sales certification. I created the HubSpot sales software certification. And I got people reaching out to me all the time. I still get this. And they would say, Kyle, I took your course on sales and I loved it. I'm a marketer. And I went and talked to my VP of sales and I said, look, there's a cool new way to do sales. We should try it. And he said to me, you're a marketer. You don't know anything about sales. Like, go away. and that happens all the time. And so for you marketing managers out there, there's a real phenomenon that's really hard. I created this course to help you with that. But if it's a long course and I recognize you want an answer right now. The simplest suggestion I can give you is go find a salesperson on your team. Could be just a normal salesperson, could be a sales manager. Probably don't start with the VP of sales. Start someone who's closer to the front lines with your customers and just ask them, what's stopping you from selling? Because pretty much every salesperson has a long list of excuses of why they're struggling to hit their quota. So many things they don't have control over. And they will give you a list of maybe 10 things. Some of those you won't have any control over, right? Maybe the time zone difference between them and the region they're serving is too big and it's causing like, you can't fix that. But if they say anything about like, I don't have the content I need, or I don't know how to answer these questions, or I know we have this information somewhere, but I just can't find it because our library is so disorganized, or I spend so much time writing the same email over and over, I don't have enough time to be on the phone with prospects. Those are things you can take. And if you as a marketer can solve one of those problems, if you can say, hey, look, I created an email template you can use so you don't have to type that email every time. Or look, I organized our content library into folders, and now you can find the stuff you're looking for. Now that salesperson is going to think, wow, this marketer is all right. They solve problems. They make my job easier. And now you have opened a conversation where you can start to make suggestions. What happens so often is a marketer shows up and says, hey, I took this course from HubSpot Academy, and now I know how to solve all your problems. Change all these things, and then it'll be wonderful. And you're not coming from a place of empathy, right? And the salespeople just feel like, you don't understand what I do on a daily basis. You don't know how hard my job is. Don't come tell me what to do. Don't tell me this is an easy problem to fix. And so I think if you can lead with empathy, like, why is this hard? How can I help? And then if you can solve a problem for them, whatever that problem may be, now you are building a relationship where there is space for you to start making suggestions, saying, hey, I really think we could provide your team with a lot of qualified leads, but we don't know how you qualify leads. We don't know what a good lead looks like. If you could tell us that, sales team, then we, the marketers, could go out and find those people for you and give them to you. Now you're starting to build alignment. If you're in this sort of organization where you're a marketer and you walk up to a salesperson and say, hey, here are some ideas, and they tell you to go away, it's going to be a long journey before you get to any of the stuff I've included in my slides today. And so you just have to figure out how to open up those initial conversations with this salesperson over here, and then that salesperson over there, and then this sales team we've now won over, and you'll get there eventually. But
yeah,
and
it's even more difficult when sales, and that's a comment of Wouter in the chat, that if sales is not only relying on marketing leads, but they also source their own leads, they might feel even the urgency even more or less to align this part.
Yeah, and I think the reality, most sales teams will be sourcing their own leads to some extent. But one thing I've noticed, I don't know if this is a universal truth, but I have never met a salesperson whose favorite thing in the whole world is sourcing leads. That's just not why they get into sales, right? They're in sales because they really love the conversations and the negotiations and the problem solving. The research part and finding new leads is not, it's the worst part of sales. And so I think a lot of sales teams, if you can have a serious conversation where you lead from a place of empathy and you're like, how much time are your sales reps spending finding new leads versus closing new business? How much of that can the marketing team take over? I mean, again, if the trust isn't there, the sales team will be like, we don't believe marketers can find us good leads. But if you can build that trust and then offer to take that away, I think most sales teams would be happy not to do that job anymore.
I agree. I'm not the universe, but I can confirm that it's not the best part of the job. Let me see. There's a final question coming in. The worst part of a salesperson is administration.
Yes, I
Finding
agree.
new lead comes soon after that. Yeah, that's true.
Yes, great point.
Yeah.
And yeah.
All right. I think enough to think about, enough to discuss. I hope we get marketing and sales at every table in every company, because I think for both parts, for both islands, it makes the jobs way more fun and easier if we start collaborating more and more. So thank you for all your insights here. Thank you for your energy in the morning, because it's morning on your end there.
Yeah.
And if you could go to your slide to connect with you, I think that's
yeah. So
because if people have questions, they can reach out to you via LinkedIn. So yeah, it's more than welcome to connect.
I have my Twitter handle here also, but LinkedIn, I live on LinkedIn. I'm there every day, and if you send me a connect request, and especially if you say you were here at Web's Webinar Wednesday, in your connect request, I will absolutely connect with you, and I'm happy to talk about any of these things or any HubSpot things or sales things. I'm happy to talk.
Thank you so much. And to add to that, because some people were still asking in the chat, you also get this slide deck and some additional information to fuel that conversation between marketing and sales in all your organizations. Kyle, super thank you for your time again. Thank everybody for attending this meeting, and let's change the commercial world, and let's combine the forces between marketing and sales.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Bye, guys. Talk soon.